What's going on, Show Nation? It's Movie with Movie Gaming TV. Today I'm going to go over the live stream, the first live stream of the year that Sony San Diego put out in regards to MLB The Show 21. I'm going to go over all the key points of what they did, so I'm going to condense it down for you. And then I'm also going to give you my opinion on the stuff that they revealed. So there's going to be multiple ones of them. You can see on the screen here, we got pitching and hitting, complete fielding overhaul, introduction of ball player, franchise in March, October. MLB The Show goes next gen, and Diamond Dynasty will be the last one. So today was pitching and hitting. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. Now, the first thing they talked about in this part of it, they talked about casual, simulation, competitive, the three different game modes. We'll just go through this quickly. The one thing that was interesting about this is they talked about how casual and competitive, they used to not even exist. They weren't even, they just basically had simulation in the past, and they said the simulation was 50% user input and 50% the attributes of the attributes of the cards. And so casual is going to be like a really pick up a play, changes the back end of the engine, and then competitive is supposed to be like 100% user input. So I found that to be kind of interesting. I think all online play is competitive too, and most people that play online, you know, they're trying to move up the leaderboard and all that kind of stuff. I think they should be happy with more of it being based on user input and all that kind of stuff. So I do like the direction they've gone with that, but it was just like kind of a quick little synopsis about that and kind of where to set your difficulty level and all that stuff. But I feel like, you know, that's kind of just, if you have never played the game, something to look at. So the first thing, excuse me, that they talked about was check swings. They're trying to make check swings more realistic. They said, one quote that really stuck out to me was, they said that they're trying to make the check swings that the user input has like match what the player did. So if you check swung, let's say it was a good check swing, right? Based on your user input, they're trying to have it so the guy doesn't flail way out and it looks like he didn't check swing, even though that they did. Just looking at this though, and looking at the clips that they had showing this, I mean, somebody might have to get more of a ruling on check swing. I always kind of looked at it as like, you don't want to go too far in front of the plate, so that looks to like a good check swing to me. It's like you never want to cross that part in front, and you'll see in this video like some of them almost look like they're still going a bit too far. He takes that pitch. Let's see if we can get to some of these, but as I was watching the footage, I was just a little bit concerned. Let's see where the bat ends up here. Like, is that a check swing? I guess that's good enough. That's kind of even. We didn't see a lot of check swings for strikes, which I feel more people want than anything. Personally, I check swing a lot to get my timing down. Let's see on that one. I guess that's good. Just like when I was watching it in real time, I was just kind of thinking like, man, was that like a little bit too much? I mean, that just his animation right there, that does look like he checked the swing regardless of where this, he definitely checked that one way in advance. Let's see how it goes here. I mean, that was more of a stronger check, and let's see what the result was on that. And I see that one's one where it's like, man, was that really a check swing? Like, that one went a little bit further, so maybe they could tune that a little bit back a little bit. Just give that advantage to the pitcher, because I feel like maybe they got fooled more. But again, that one's pretty close. I guess maybe they are going for more like some of the more egregious ones, but that's just one thing. If I had to give them feedback today, that's the one thing I noticed where I'm looking at these replays down the left, and that was a check swing. I guess they kept it even enough, so just something to look out for. I think what their end goal is they want to make check swings more fair, and I think they want to make it so check swings are more, so they get called strikes more often. So you're not playing a game where someone check swings like 45 times in one game. You know what I mean? Like they wanted to kind of like make it tougher to check swing. And the other big thing that they talked about today is discipline. Like every player and their attributes they have. Something called play. Well, they just have discipline. That's being thrown out the window for, especially, I think it's thrown out the window for all game modes, but I know it will be online. So one of the things you run into later in the year, let's say it's like June or July, you really started to build out your Diamond Dynasty team with a lot of legends, and like a lot of those guys that are really great players of all time would have really good discipline, so they'd get more, you know, they could really check swing like crazy and get away with it. And now discipline's been completely removed. It's all based on the user, so I think that's a positive thing. Moving forward. All right, so what's the next thing they talked about here? And video is going to be they talked a little bit about perfect and kind of gave us some of the stats on these. Now this is a very broad stat in general, because look how many swings it goes off of. So I've always kind of, you know, it's like, where are all these swings happening? But they've got I'd really like to see them condense this down, because it's so many swings and they like to take the really big number, but I'd like to see them condense this down into separate areas. So like, how many swings were you looking at? I don't know if it's possible, you know what I mean? I don't know what the back end software is, but a couple things I would do is I'd go look. So how many of these were in, you know, the games where people were playing against each other online? How many of these were on the computer or against the computer on a lower difficulty? Because I just feel like maybe those are two different things. The one thing you always got to keep in mind about perfect, good, okay, good, weak. So perfect, and I said it in our last video, you got to think about somebody like Roberto Alomar, who has like usually about 75, 79-ish power on a 125 scale. You can hit perfect with him, but he doesn't really have the power to drive it out consistently like someone like Griffey, you know, who has like a really boosted Griffey card down the line, where it's one of the Griffey's best tiered cards, where he's got like over 110 power. You know, that's when, like, if you're hitting perfect with him and it's not going out, I think you have more of a case than somebody that's kind of like more of a line drive gap type of hitter when it's not really their style. I don't know if that's a good way to approach it, but that's kind of what I've noticed. And I guess I'm kind of okay with how it plays like that, because I don't know if you want like a bunch of players that have like 30 power to be able to hit home runs like on a perfect, like super consistent. I don't know if that really reflects like the type of player that they are, but that's just kind of the way I look at it. And again, it's going to be interesting to see the game also progresses throughout the year too. So in March, we'll probably have 3 big time legends, right? That you'll get from the collection reward, that people that are going to go through the game really quickly and, you know, complete the collections and get all the best cards off the bat. And like, that's going to happen because people love this game. It's going to happen. People are going to play BR. People are going to spend money to get stubs to get the collections done first. Like, the YouTube and Twitch scene is just absolutely blowing up. I mean, compared to how it was like 3 or 4 years ago, like there's so many more people like just trying to like separate themselves, make content that people are going to want to see. Like, there's going to be some people that have like those top tier cards, but the pitching and the hitting kind of always need to match. So what do I mean by that? So if it's a lower tier pitcher, like let's say, I got to use last year's game as an example. So last year off rip, we kind of had like that 86 Greg Maddux, you know, the 86 Mariano Rivera, and they're kind of matched up against, you know, Sheffield, Mantle, and Biggio would kind of be like your top 3 cards on the other end. So you might see a lot more, you know, as long as those kind of match up. Once the hitting outmatches the pitching as we get content released, that's what you really got to look for, and just try to pay attention early on as we give feedback to like how much power some of the players that we're using have, like how good the pitching is compared to the cards that we're using on offense. And hopefully those can gradually get released at the same time, and we'll see somewhat of a consistent thing. If the offense is too good, we're going to absolutely smash that bad pitching. You know what I'm saying? If we got a ton of like high powered hitters versus the pitching that isn't as good, like an 86 Maddux going up against like a stacked lineup of over like 105, 110, 120 power lineup. It's not even maybe just a one card that could be the overall collection reward, but just in general. And just something we're going to have to pay attention to. A lot of the times I offer, we actually use some live series cards too. So we'll have to see how these numbers go. But they got an 843, 550 for good, 236 for good, okay, and 129. I feel like, you know, perfect is never going to be 100% guaranteed. That's just not the way they want it to play out. They want it still to be a chance for you to be able to line out. I think a lot of this too would play better outside of Diamond Dynasty. So let's say we're playing like the Nationals versus the Royals with those type of teams where not every single player is amazing, especially like by like a June lineup where I'm going to have like 3 really fast outfielders that are like 5-tool players and like almost a 5-tool around the diamond defensively. So it's like, you got to think of an outfield with like Griffey, Mays, and Mantle, or Griffey, Trout, and Mantle, or whoever. Like that's not what the average team has. So it's probably going to like lower some of those perfect numbers a little bit. You might hit a line drive at somebody like a great shortstop. Like real teams aren't ever going to be 9 deep 5-tool at every position. So I feel like these numbers might come a little bit down. Maybe let's say 843, they go down to like 800, and good goes down to like 500. So you just want to try to get as many perfects and good goods as you can. And some games you're going to get a little bit more unlucky than others. That's just how it's going to roll. But I don't really know how else they're supposed to do it unless they want to make perfect like 100, like 1,000, and like that's fine and everything. I wouldn't be too upset with them going like that, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like sometimes people line out. So it's a difficult balance. We'll just have to see how it goes and provide feedback as we go through on that. So I'm going to try. So that's kind of their percentage of like hits, singles, doubles, triples, and home runs. Again, I'd like to see it pared down, but you got to remember too, like, I try to keep in mind too, they're trying to sell their video game. I don't think they're going to go out into their live stream, and they want to be as transparent as possible, but I don't think they're going to go, like, it just wouldn't make a lot of sense when you think about it to go into the live stream and like break it down as much as I'd like to see it, like with the online gameplay stuff. Maybe that's more suited for something like a Twitter post or a blog post on their site or something a little bit later into the year. But they do want the game to be as perfect as possible. But I understand, like, maybe this isn't the place for them to do that. So they're talking about par, and this is a very interesting thing. And this is a thing that I actually noticed. It's a perfect accuracy region. It's something I noticed in last year's game. And it kind of reminds me, honestly, what it kind of reminds me of, if you ever played backyard baseball back in the game or back in the day, that's what it reminds me of. So it's the perfect accuracy region, differences in pitching interface, pitchers, difficulties, perfect result expectations. And it's affected by, I went through that kind of fast. It's affected by the energy and confidence as well. And that's a couple things. It's the energy of the pitcher. It's also the pitch confidence overall of the pitcher and the pitch confidence on the specific pitch. And also, they're going to have like different, what am I trying to say? Like, different pitches have different control ratings, but if that sounds really complicated, it's going to get really easy to figure out here in a second. So this, for example, is a pinpoint pitching style with a curveball on Legend. And you can see that area around the ball. Those are all the spots. It's going to land in that circle 100% of the time if you're using pinpoint pitching with curveball on Legend. With this specific pitcher, it's Strasburg I saw on the hill. And the circle is going to get wider the more tired the pitcher gets. Or if the pitcher's getting knocked around, it's going to get, it's going to get further out. On rookie, it's pretty much 1-to-1. It's going to go exactly where it is, especially on pinpoint. And we're going to get a lot into like which pitching interface should you use this year, because this is like a huge new thing that we have this year in regards to this. So there's a pinpoint pitching for a 4-seam on Legend. As you go on a harder difficulty, the circle gets wider than if it was on the the lower difficulties, obviously. And then it depends on the pitch. Fastballs, especially if the fastball's their first pitch, they're almost always going to have more control of it. Fastball's just an easy pitch to control. Off speed's a lot more difficult to control, so there's going to be more room for it to go in different spots. But you can see this curveball on Legend. So you see this circle right here. Why not take this circle and aim it like right below the zone? Like, especially if you're trying to throw like a waste pitch, you don't want to clip too much of this top part in the zone, because if it goes below, even lower, and it goes into here, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to, it's 0-2 and you're trying to throw that breaking pitch below the zone to get him to chase. Just use that circle to match up where you want to throw it. And again, Pinpoint is going to be the most accurate pitching this year. This is a good look here of like Blake Snell's pitches. So there's his fastball circle, his changeup, which is his second best pitch, his slider, and his curveball. Every pitcher has the 1 through 4 order, and his fastball is his most accurate. His curveball is his most wild. It has different spots it can end up, but it's important to remember it's always going to end up in that circle. It's going to end up in that black and gray circle on the outside of the baseball. So it's going to end up someplace in there. So spot your pitches accordingly and use the pitches to your strength. You might want to use more fastballs, changeups, and sliders and kind of avoid this curveball in the zone almost at all. Maybe throw that only as a waste pitch. Use these other pitches if you're using Blake Snell. So it's going to add a little bit more strategy in regards to that of how you're going to want to pitch. All right, let's keep going along here. All right, so this is the one thing that I noticed that kind of sent the chat a little bit into a frenzy. And personally myself too, I was a little questioned as to what this was, especially as someone that loves to pitch with pure analog. So, and I think a lot of people, they're looking to like give feedback and tweet things right now. So let me play it again so you can see the picture clearly, and I'm gonna hit pause again because look, the fastball pinpoint's going to be the hardest way to input. Like it requires the most out of the user stick skill to hit it perfectly, right? So I get that. It's going to be the smallest circle. Now meter is and this is I should point out as well. This is a Jacob deGrom, I believe, on Hall of Fame fastball. So you can tell with meter, and I'll play it and pause it again. Meter is a little bit smaller, and then analog is even wider. So I don't understand why these two aren't the same. I honestly, I'm not sure why meter gets this boost over the analog. Now again, I actually think the only thing I can say is this sounds pretty crazy, especially if you never use analog and you just use meter. I've used analog so much the past like 3 or 4 years that honestly meter would probably be more difficult for me than analog to use. And I still really haven't decided which one I'm going to go with. Now, I think a lot of people are going to use this, and it seems really difficult right now, but it may be one of those things where you put in a little bit of practice on the pinpoint and you go with it. I still love using analog. I wish this circle, though, would get reduced to the size of the Hall of Fame meter. I think I could work with this, but man, that is a big circle, in my opinion, on a fastball on Hall of Fame with Jacob deGrom. That has a lot of spots it can go, especially for someone like Jacob deGrom. So I'd like to see this shrunk maybe a little bit, but I get it. They want people to use pinpoint. They're really, maybe it'll be too easy if analog's like that and it was more like this. But I should also say, back to when I started talking about this, like I've felt this in the game for a while. Like they're just bringing this gray circle and giving us more information, but I've definitely felt these circles being there in the past, even though we haven't been able to see them till this year. Let me know in the comment section if you thought about that as well. All right, so let's keep going through this here. They're going to talk about that. And now we're going to get into pinpoint pitching. And so I think, I'm very interested to see how many people are going to be using pinpoint pitching. Like, it's going to be one of those things that I'm personally going to have to practice. I might have to make the switch to it this year, but I just love analog so much. But here's the system it's going to be using. It's called the GRD system. It stands for 3 different things. And again, they have the difficulty and accuracy. I love that graphic, by the way. That looks great. And so they kind of talk about here, like what your input needs to be. So I'll explain what they're explaining here. So this part at the bottom is kind of like where you're setting the pitch is where this first circle is going to be. So they're moving it back and forth. You can see that. Then they want you to follow this motion. They're going to show you a preview of the speed that this goes. So you move the right stick to the left, then back up around, and you want to try to match the speed as it goes around. So you want to check that preview and match the speed. So let's say you moved it over to, you make the gesture that they have. Once you get to the top, you move it back down to the circle. And if you moved it to the left or to the right, to spot the pitch in a different spot, that's where you would move it down to. So let's say you moved it over here, you'd still go like this, and then you just move it back down over there based on the timing of when they're going to release it. So that's kind of how the pinpoint pitching works. And it's so much more accurate, but it's more difficult to perform on the right stick. So it's going to be interesting to get in and practice, but that's basically how it works from that perspective. This is another really interesting thing. Here's all the pitches. So watch this screen. These are all the animations. Fastball straight up and down. The two seam to the sinker is a little bit to the right, over, up, and down. The cutter does what it does. Exactly, you can see on the screen. They said the splitter is the most difficult one. That knuckleball doesn't look too difficult. I'm looking at the 12-6. So these are all the patterns that you're going to want to do. And it's going to be interesting to see. It's like you're really going to need a good controller this year. I feel like you're going to need a good controller with like sound analog sticks to like really perform these actions. But I'm curious how many people are going to use this. Let me know down in the comment section below. I think, you know, here's some of the gameplay with it too. And you can see there's a straight up and down for the fastball. And straight up and down, they made the movement for the fastball, and then watch him time it at the end. So you make the move, then you wait, and then right as they're going to release it, you throw down. Or you move it down to that last circle. So you're going to set the pitch, do the gesture, get it to the top part, and then move down to where the circle is. So he's holding it up. Now he's going to put it back down right as he's going to throw. So based on their motion, it's like another thing. This is actually, the more I watch it, it's just more and more interesting. This is one of those things that I really want to practice because it looks like it's going to be kind of fun to use. Like, it's very intimidating at the start, but you just have to learn it. And it's definitely one thing like I'm going to have to do some kind of a tutorial on once we get our hands on the actual game. But I'm interested in it. I think it looks pretty cool. All right, so they also talked a little bit about practice mode. I'm going to cover this quickly because I know this video is getting a little bit long. Basically, what you can do in practice mode this year is you can work on the perfect practice. You can see different pitches, and the one thing that's really big this year is that when you're hitting, you can focus on like certain locations that you want to hit with. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find that clip. You can see down here in the bottom left. Like if you want all inside pitches, you can get all inside pitches, like just spam to you over and over again. If you want to work on hitting high and inside or warm up a specific way, you can do that. So that's pretty sweet that they have that now. So you can work on your pitching and you can work on hitting specific pitches in specific spots, which is a big time plus. I would still love to see your Diamond Dynasty team be implemented as a team that you can select in practice mode. I think that's like the last step that they need now that they got this back, but that would be pretty sweet as well. I don't think that they have like team practice, but I don't know if they quite have that feature. That would be like a great feature. Improvements to swing timing, improvements to perfect hitting. One thing I should say about the perfect hitting is they did say that they moved the perfect foul ball percentage, or the fair ball percentage on a perfect from 98% to 99%. So you really shouldn't see too many more like perfects that go foul. They had like a little bit of a grace period here. And then the last thing we got is a legend reveal. The legend that's going to be in this game is Alfonso Soriano. He's going to be in the game. That's our first new legend that we've had revealed. Pretty exciting. I know Healy's been here for a long time. Now he's here. A lot of power hitting out of that second base position. Can play all over the place. Should be an interesting one. For a second, I thought it was Derek Jeter, but then it wasn't. But I'm happy that Alfonso Soriano is going to be in the game. All right. That's everything you need to know about it, and that's my feedback. SDS, if you watch it, that's just kind of my feedback on what I thought about certain things, and maybe take a look at some of that stuff if you're so inclined. But I'm super excited about the game, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.